Hi, this is Dale Guiducci with ERA Credit Services, and today I'm going to talk about this plan that Joe Biden has to cancel the credit bureaus. There's a lot of people out there talking about it. How's that going to affect the credit repair industry? Well, we're going to break that down today. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. And of course, if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button and certainly subscribe to the channel. If you are interested in the credit repair industry, interested in getting involved, or maybe already are in the credit repair industry, you're definitely going to want to subscribe. I've got a ton of videos for you that I've done over the last several years, not just about our business model, which I think is a great alternative for people to get into the credit repair industry, but also tips on how to build a successful credit repair business. So definitely hit that subscribe button. Okay, so there's a lot of talk about Joe Biden's new plan that he's announced to just get rid of TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian and the smaller credit bureaus as well, and bring everything into the umbrella of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau in Washington, D.C. Just wipe it out, right? There's a lot of talk about that. In fact, there's 32 plus, because I stopped scrolling through YouTube, but 32 plus videos about this plan and different opinions and information about it, and a ton on just blog posts and articles and things like that that I've read through. And I've done the research, and I didn't watch all 32 videos. I watched the top 3 viewed videos, and I read some of the more popular articles from some sources that I trust in terms of their information. We're going to break that down for you today, and then I'm going to give you my opinion on how is all this going to affect the credit repair industry. So let's get into it, right? So there's the 3 top videos in terms of the number of views. The first one that I looked at, it was from The Credit Game. That's the name of the YouTube channel, and a gentleman named Mike. Now, overall, he's not in favor at all. He said it's very, very scary in terms of canceling the credit bureaus. And he talked about that, I guess the biggest point that he made was it's going to be even harder to remove negative items. So in other words, and it's a great point, because the credit bureaus are not responsible for the information that they're receiving. That's coming from creditors. And if creditors are sending erroneous information, well, the credit bureaus are just reporting that information. Well, that's going to be the same thing if you have this new agency in Washington, D.C., right? The creditors are going to report the information to them. How are you going to be able to get that information removed? Is it going to be harder for consumers? And that's what he thinks. Because right now we have a law that provides us the opportunity to help consumers and for consumers to do it on their own. Well, is that going to be in place? And then, of course, even if it is the government going to be more effective and efficient in removing negative items than the privately held companies that currently do it now, namely Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion? So he made a great point, and he actually says if you have bad credit, you're going to have bad credit with the new system as well. It's just going to be harder to fix it. I thought that was a really good point. Then there was a gal named Sherry Beckley, and I think she did a great job of bringing out some points that I hadn't thought about. She's an African-American woman, and the reason why I point that out is because she's been very successful herself. She's a multifamily building owner, and she's kind of worked her way through it. Whatever obstacles there might have been in her way, she's kind of blown through them, and she's become very personally successful. And a lot of the reasons why this proposal is being made by the Biden administration is to equal the playing field from the lower economic disadvantaged groups of people and communities, such as perhaps of African Americans and Latinos and other groups, with the more wealthy people. It's kind of level the playing field, and she has a great point. The government currently has loans for people with lower credit scores. They're FHA loans. She said, and I'm quoting her now, it's a 580 credit score to get an FHA loan, but you can go out to like 500. She says, but even if you have a higher credit score in this new system, you still need income. right? She says you still need to make the money to be able to pay it, right? There's going to be other criteria other than credit score just to qualify for loans. So she makes a really good point. And her opinion overall is, listen, let's just enforce the laws that are in place now. Like 1 in 4 Americans have errors on their credit report. Let's just fix that right now, okay? And then maybe adjust some of the things in our current system, but let's not blow up the system. That's not going to help anybody, because at the end of the day, she says it's going to be 7 to 10 years before we get this thing through. Like, how about let's help people now? And I thought that was a brilliant point. And she also is a big proponent of financial education in schools. And of course, we in our company are too. We have a foundation called the Youth Financial Literacy Foundation, or the YFL, that goes into schools across the country, providing financial education to kids. So that's something that we're a big proponent of. So we totally agree with Sherry in that regard too. The last video that I watched, and actually I think it's the best presented video, I think the most well-researched video, is from a YouTube channel called The Credit Plug. Now, the gentleman didn't give his name, but he does a really good job of presenting information. Now, I don't agree with everything he said, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But he talked about the points in this bill of getting rid of TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, and coming into this new bureau called the Public Credit Registry, which is going to be part of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Like, that's a lot of information right there, because it is the government, right? But some of the proposals are that we're going to take info that's now currently being reported for 7 years and reduce it down to 4. Well, okay, that's fine. He says it's too long, because someone 7 years ago, their financial situation and who they are as an individual today in terms of their ability to pay their bills is completely different than what it was 7 years ago, potentially. And I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. He said that people that have constantly made on-time payments, like let's say, and he used the example, out of their last 100 payments they've made, they were only late twice. That's 98%. He said if you take a test in school, that's an A. That's like an A plus, isn't it? Well, not according to your credit score. That can reduce your credit score. A late payment can reduce your credit score, as we know in the industry, 50 to 60 points. Like, that's a lot of points to lose for a one late payment. He says that's not fair, and I don't disagree with that as well. Now, here's one that I absolutely do disagree. He said that in this bill, part of this bill is that student loan debt can be included in a bankruptcy. Okay, let's take a step back from that and look at the perspective of what bankruptcies are and so forth. So first of all, not everybody can, you just decide, like, I got $5,000 in credit card debt. I don't want to pay it, so I'm just going to declare bankruptcy, and there you have it. It's all wiped out. No, that doesn't work that way. You have to get approved. You have to go to court and get approved by the judge. And the judge has got to look at your income and all of that and say, no, you can pay this. So maybe you can do this kind of bankruptcy, but not get it discharged, number one, or you can't qualify for a bankruptcy at all, okay? Well, let's take that same situation where someone has $5,000 worth of credit card debt, but they have $78,000 in student loan debt. Well, now they have a total of $83,000 of debt, and they go to file bankruptcy, and maybe other types of debt as well, and they go to file bankruptcy, and the judge goes, okay, overall you owe $90,000, let's say. Yes, you can declare bankruptcy. Well, who does that hurt? Well, it hurts the creditors that lended money in good faith to this person, where otherwise they wouldn't have been able to declare bankruptcy, and they would have had to pay that debt. So that's unfair to those creditors, number one. But number two, okay, so you write off $78,000 of student loan debt. Who's going to pay that? Are the colleges and universities just out that money? Do they take a hit? Or is the government going to have to pony up? Because remember, these are government-backed, in most cases, government-backed student loans. Are they the ones that are going to have to take the hit? And here's the hit. There's 43 million people that have student loans. I did this homework. 43 million people that have student loans in the United States. That's like 15% of the country, totaling $1.7 trillion. Who's going to eat that $1.7 trillion, right? Not that everybody's going to file bankruptcy, but I would think a good portion of these young people that there's no way in heck they're going to be able to pay this debt. They're going to go, oh, bankruptcy, let's do it. And then where's their credit score going to be? Right? This guy's talking about let's help people with their credit score, but then he's saying, oh, just throw the debt in bankruptcy, file bankruptcy. People file bankruptcy, their credit score is going to be shot for years after the fact. So it's not a good solution. I totally disagree with that for sure. He talked about it's going to exclude medical debt from credit scores. Right now, the credit bureaus aren't reporting for about 3 years, so I don't see that as being a huge issue, but he brought that out. And he talked about some other things, excluding credit reports from employment. And listen, I've never had a prospective employer pull my credit, and I believe, and I could be wrong about this, but I believe your own credit only gets pulled if you're going to be handling money or be in those kinds of positions in a bank or a retailer where you're handling money. And I think it's important for the employer to know, like, are you in serious debt? Do you have all these creditors, I mean, that you owe money to? And is that going to, kind of increase your chances of skimming money off the top here, and maybe what they do with that person is they put them in a different department where they're not handling money. So I'm torn about that as well. But at the end of the day, he says it's good in theory, but it's going to take 7 to 10 years. And Sherry, the previous gal, said it's going to take 7 to 10 years. It's going to take a long time, but this is what he said. He kind of contradicted himself at the end. Again, he did a good presentation, but he said he's been affected by the credit system like a lot of people, but he found a way around it. Well, listen, I've been affected by the credit system. I had bad credit and I found a way around it. Not around it, but I used the laws to help me. Right? And that's what you and I do in the credit repair industry, is we use the laws that are written the way they are, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and we help people use the current system to find a way around and help them increase their credit score, which is what he did. So he kind of contradicted himself by saying, I found a way around it. So I found that kind of suspect. But here's what I got from Forbes, okay? So this was an article from this year, February 22nd, 2021. And I think it's a really good article to kind of talk about in this type of video, right? About how this is going to affect the credit repair industry. First of all, they went through and they described what the proposal is, but they said there's problems with the proposal. So what are the problems? There's no clear plan. They talked about that. In other words, how are they going to get all this done? No clear plan. No indication that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau would be better than the current credit bureaus. And of course, it's the government. We all are suspect of how well they could do that. They're still going to be reporting, as I talked about earlier, on still be relying on what the creditors report. How's that going to be fixed? We talked about that. How are people going to be able to dispute information on their credit report? And they said this: if you would need to double the size of the current Consumer Financial Protection Bureau just to handle the number of disputes that come in daily to the credit bureaus now. You got to double that department just to handle that. That has nothing to do with storing the data and gathering the data from the credit bureaus. I mean, amazing. They said the issue of lending bias is not currently being controlled by the credit bureaus. Lenders do that. So credit bureaus don't make decisions based on whether a lender should lend to a certain person or type of person or not. The lenders do that. So in order to solve that problem. Don't blow up the credit bureaus. Go in and work with the lenders and maybe put some regulation around the lenders to make them have better lending practices. They've thought that the cost of credit could and would go up for people with a lower credit score because the risk factor goes up for lenders. So in other words, listen, if credit scores are going to go up, there's still going to be a lower end, and lenders aren't stupid. They're going to go, okay, that's the lower end. They still have a lower credit score compared to the rest of the country. So we're going to put some risk factors into place. We can't see all this information anymore. We can just see this. So we're going to put some more risk factors in there. In other words, we're going to increase the points to get that loan. We're going to increase the interest rate to get that loan. In fact, people that have low credit scores now might be in a worse off situation, according to Forbes. Okay, so listen, and it goes on. There's going to be a massive increase in government and the lives of Americans. That's not a good thing, according to a lot of people. I mean, you might think more government is good. That's up to you, right? So listen, their conclusion was it's going to take a long time, and political leaders would be better served if they work together and fix the current system instead of blowing up the current system and starting new. And I couldn't agree more. So, but what I also couldn't agree more with is that the current system is flawed and it needs adjustments. And, I think it's something that most people could agree on. And one of the things that I have a challenge with when I'm trying to work with clients is someone says, listen, I had this late payment or I had this delinquency in the past, but I paid it and it's still showing up on my credit report as a negative item. See, I think that's wrong. right? Now, should a lender be able to see that they had made a late payment? Maybe, but I don't think it should affect their credit score. I think there could be a middle ground, not just positive and negative, but maybe a middle ground of things that were made right. See, I would think that as a lender, I would want to lend to somebody that had the ethics to pay their bills, like even though they had some delinquencies. And listen, who of us hasn't been late on something in our past, right? So I just think there should be a middle ground. So understand, what is this system for that we currently have with reporting information, monthly payments and credit scores and so forth? It's a way for creditors to determine whether they should loan to a person and at what risk factor, and then assign a risk factor via points and interest rates to that individual for that particular loan. So in order to get this changed, and this is really what it comes down to, in order to get this bill passed by Joe Biden, who's involved? Well, first of all, the three multi-billion-dollar privately held credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. They're not going to roll over on this. They're not going to say, oh yeah, please blow up our company. Please wipe it off the face of the map. No problem. That's not what they're going to say. Would you agree? And then you've got the 15,000 creditors that currently report information to the credit reports on a monthly basis. Do you think they want to see less information, or do they want to see more? They want to see more. Okay, that's because they're lending money, right? And they have stockholders that want to make a profit. So they're not going to like this proposal. So in other words, a bunch of money is going to get thrown at this thing to make it not happen. Let's just say it that way. So you've got that issue. But then let's talk about how a bill gets passed into law. Okay. First of all, the bill has to get written, which it's not. It has to go to committee once it's written, and the committee's just got to decide, hey, how are we going to get this thing passed based on the current political climate and who we know that is doing the voting here. So it goes into community and they talk about a lot of those things amongst others. Then it goes through the lobbying process. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of money thrown at not making this thing happen, right? So it's got to go through that process. And then finally, it could potentially get to Congress, the House of Representatives and the Senate. Well, in the House, understand that the Democrats don't have a huge majority. They have a majority, but not a huge majority. It's 219 to 211 in the House. So even if like 10 of the Democrats decide they don't like this deal, and all the Republicans don't like this deal, which they are not, it's not going to get passed in the House. But let's say it gets passed in the House. Then it goes to the Senate. Well, the Republicans have a majority in the Senate. There's 50 Republican senators, there's 48 Democratic senators, and there's 2 independents. So to get this thing even through the Congress is going to be an uphill battle. And then it goes to a situation where the House says, I'll pass it with these exceptions. Congress, I'll pass it with these exceptions. And then they got to come together and decide. And then they send it off to Joe Biden for signature. Now, that's not a foregone conclusion. You might think, oh, well, Joe Biden's going to sign it. No. Why? Because it's going to be completely different than what he originally proposed. And there's going to be a lot of things thrown into this. So in order to get people to vote for this, things are going to be thrown into it like, okay, if you vote yes, I'll get you farm subsidies for your people back in Iowa. All of those kinds of things get thrown into it, and a lot of those things he may not like. Like, you know, we'll do oil drilling off the coast of Texas if you vote for this. Well, he doesn't like oil drilling off the coast of Texas. So all those things need to be considered. So the bottom line is this thing's going to take years, if not well over a decade, to get it that far, if it ever gets there. And I agree with Forbes. I agree with Shelley, I believe her name was. Just fix the current system. Take what you don't like, take what is unfair about the current system, and fix that now. Like, fix it this year. If you want to make an impact, Joe Biden, fix those problems in the current credit system. Let's not blow up the government. In other words, blow it up bigger. Let's not make the government bigger. Let's not get the government more involved in our lives. Let's not spend millions, possibly hundreds of millions of dollars on a new department. Let's not do all of that. Just sick your government, your administration on the credit bureaus and fix some of the current situations and with lenders as well. So the bottom line is we can help people right now. So and keep this in mind too, you know. What we're talking about here, if you're interested in getting involved in the credit repair industry, what we're talking about here is strictly the removal of derogatory items, right? And as far as how we would be affected anyway. And there's going to have to be a way, even if this thing gets past 10 years from now, there's going to have to be a way to get things removed. And certainly some people today, they want to do it themselves. That's fine. But there's people like me who go, well, I could fix I could change my own oil, but I don't change my own oil. I drive it down to the street and I let someone else do it. Well, I look on my phone a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, there's all kinds of things. I don't cut my own hair. I don't mow my own lawn. I don't, if I weren't in this industry, I wouldn't be fixing my own credit. I'd be using a professional to do that. And that's how a lot of people think. So we're always going to be okay. However, I want to share with you that if you are currently in the credit repair industry, or you're thinking about getting in the credit repair industry, and all you do is remove derogatory items, that's a challenge in and of itself. Forget this proposal by Biden. Why? Because there's 87,000 companies in the United States that remove derogatory items. What makes you any different? See, none of this bothers me whatsoever, because I don't think it's going to get there anyway. But even if it did, our business model, and it's something you should really take a look at, we do more than just remove negative items. See, removing negative items is just 35% of your credit score. It's just payment history. 35% of your credit score. What about the other 2/3 of the credit pie that you could be helping? That's what we do. We help people with 100% of their credit score. We help people pay down their debt. We help people build positive credit. We do a lot of different things to help people protect their score, monitor their score. And so therefore, we're very competitive out there. When we're talking to real estate agents and mortgage brokers and solar companies to help their credit challenge clients, like, we have a lot we can do for a client. We have stuff that we can do for people that don't have any negative items. Do you? So check out our business model. Check out our business model. I'm going to put a link to the description to the page on our website where you can watch a 30-minute video about our business model to share with you what we have to offer, what you could potentially have to offer as an independent agent working with us, and be very, very competitive out there and be insulated from any of this stuff. And that's how I feel that we are. We're insulated from any of this stuff because we help people in so many different ways. So hopefully this video helped you. Click that link. Go take a look at our business model. Like the video if you would. Subscribe to the channel because I come out with new stuff all the time. And go back and dig into the channel because I've got some great credit repair business coaching information that if you currently are in the credit repair business, it's going to help you build your credit repair business. You have a great day, and I appreciate you watching. Take good care. Bye now. Top is up.